Great morning, great morning, great morning. It's WDRB Media. It's the name of the show. It's About You Radio. I'm your host, Mickey D. Every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity, this platform to share, to inspire, to motivate, to get you to move to become your best that you can possibly be. Listen, it is always an honor. As I said, 8 o'clock in the morning, so somebody's having breakfast, somebody is in the gym, so thank you for that extra cup of coffee to get the extra lap in or that extra rep. Whatever you got to do, let's get it done together. Listen, we got a great show today, but before we get started, I always give the your motivational moment with Mickey D. Listen, today I want to talk about one thing, greatness. What does greatness look like? Well, look in the mirror. You came in the world great. You came in the world a winner. So no matter what happens during the day, what setback, what temporary setback, you were created for greatness. You came in the world a winner. Absolutely. But you must see it in the mirror. If you don't see it, it's hard to become great. You are great. What are you putting back? What are you holding on to that you should let go of that's keeping you from being the greatest person you can be to accomplish the greatest things that you always wanted to be and want to accomplish? That has been your morning motivation with Mickey D, brought to you by MauriceMcDonald.net. MauriceMcDonald.net. Go there and learn all about amazing gut products today. Listen, today we're going to talk about a topic that I think is quite timely, and that is back to school. We're approaching, summer's over, almost over, of course, we're getting close to it, but students are coming back to school. Parents are I've seen commercials on television, back to school. They're buying clothes and they're getting new computers and new laptops and new sneakers and all those types of things. And so I decided that it is time that we talk about school. And along with buying their nice clothes and all the things back to school, students are excited. Some students are first graders, and then we got seniors and all the way through. And parents are busy buying clothes. I thought it would be great to talk to someone who is very knowledgeable about this, and that's somebody in the trenches, somebody who is a principal, somebody who's got great years of experience in education, to let parents all across the country, because I don't care whether you're in North Carolina, whether you're in Georgia, California, it doesn't matter. It's the same principle, same idea of going back to school, the adjustments. So today I've got someone I'm going to be talking with today and dialoguing and interviewing Mr. Erik Turner. He is a principal of the Central Piedmont, or should I call it the CP Early College. And so therefore, and what that is, he'll explain what that is, but he's got over 20 years of experience in education, and then obviously as a principal. So I'll let him introduce himself. So with that said, welcome, Mr. Turner. How are you doing?
Good morning, Mr. McDonald. How are you?
Oh, I am fantastic. First and foremost, it is an honor to have you here to share this information with parents all across the country that need to know, have some ideas so that they can be successful during the school. So if you would, introduce yourself, get a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, again, just thank you for allowing me to be on your show. I appreciate the platform to be able to talk with parents and families. Again, I'm Principal Erik Turner. I'm the principal at Central Piedmont Early College Program, which is an early college that allows our students to be able to earn their high school diplomas, an associate degree through the dual enrollment program, and if they choose to pursue an industry credential, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, automotive mechanics, or what have you, they can also pursue that industry credential as well. I've been working in education for over 20 years, as you mentioned. I've been a principal of a large comprehensive high school, a principal of a middle school, and an assistant principal in a pre-K-8. So I've been fortunate to work on the whole spectrum of K-12 education, or the whole continuum of K-12 education, and I love it when I see those pre-K babies and kindergarten babies coming in, and as they start their schooling, their formal schooling career. And I've had the privilege of handing diplomas to students as they cross the stage. So to see the entire experience in that educational system is a part of what I'm passionate about. and why I get up every morning and give my very best at the school that I serve in.
Absolutely. And I believe this is in your DNA because I had the privilege as a high school counselor myself to work with your dad some as an educator. So it's in your DNA for sure to see that. So because I told my listeners my three professions have all been helping people, and those years of school counsel was fantastic. And some things what I wanted to kind of tap into, as I said earlier in the introduction, is that this is the time of year back to school. Students are coming back to school, all of whether private school or public school, doesn't matter. The buses will be rolling, a lot of activity, everything else. But what are some key ways you think parents can help children transition smoothly into the new school year?
Such a great question. I think one of the first things that comes to mind for me, Mr. McDonald, is just really having some conversations around goals for the upcoming year. You'd be surprised at how many students come into the school year and they don't have that conversation with their parents about what they're working towards, and so they go into the school year like without a target. And those goals could be academic, they could be social, they could be emotional, they could be athletic. But I think that it starts with establishing some benchmarks, establishing some goals, and then working with parents taking the lead to work with their students on what are some of the plans, action plans that they're going to execute as a family to help them accomplish those goals. For example, if a student says, okay, I want to make the honor roll this year, and I want to make the AB honor roll and get perfect attendance. That's awesome. And so the family would talk about, well, what will it take here at home to help you accomplish that goal? Do we need to set aside designated study time? Is there a designated no screen time or technology time that we're going to implement here at home to help make sure that you're focused during that time? And I think that's where it starts. And I think that when that occurs, it sends a strong message to the students that education is a priority. You mentioned earlier that families are buying clothes and buying shoes, and I think that's great. I've been a part of that with my two boys as well when they were in school, and I think parents need to spend that same amount of energy focusing on um, the goals and like the attainment of education, in addition to what the experience of being in the school would be socially. If you understand what I'm saying,
Yes,
and I think
yes.
that we get caught up. We can have the danger of being able to be more concerned about like what the social experience is going to be like, as opposed to is my child actually learning? Are they growing? Are they becoming a better person through the schooling experience?
Absolutely. I think that you hit the nail on the head a lot there because when you mentioned about having this targeted goals, I believe every organization, even on a job, there's always a goal. I don't care where you work, the organization, company, whoever you work for, they got a target goal. If it's sales or whatever it is. So I think in sports, there's a targeted goal. The goal might be to make the playoffs this year, or we lost all our games. So this year, let's win 2 games, okay?
Right.
So I believe what you're saying is coming into the school, what is the goal this year? If last year you did not do your best, what is the goal this year? And if you did do well last year, how can we still improve, get better? We still need to have a plan. So when I'm hearing you say it's important for these parents to sit down and have a plan, how we're going to get there. What are the things, that we're going to do?
You're absolutely right. And one thing that I didn't mention earlier is in that planning process, sharing with students and sharing with family members who are the team members that are going to help you accomplish those goals. Who in the adult world we talk about asset mapping, and so when we're talking to even our elementary school students around their goals, bringing in the partners that are going to be instrumental in helping those students accomplish those goals. Those are teachers, those are counselors, those are administrators, those are coaches. Those are all the people in that child's world that, one, they need to know what those goals are, and they need to also know that those children, those students are going to come to them and expect them to help them be partners in accomplishing those goals. So when we speak about stakeholders often, And when everyone takes a keen interest and has a stake in each child's learning and development, our community gets better. And so I think that's a critical part of that action planning process. Because if you don't bring in your partners, then everyone will try to do it on their own and do it by themselves. And that's not how our workforce works in the 21st century economy. We work in teams, we collaborate, we partner. And so, what better way to begin to have our students understand that with setting goals with regards to their academic performance?
I love this, and see, I know as a professional school counselor myself, I saw this as you said, a collaboration between the parents, the students, faculty, administration, even out in the community where agencies came in and volunteered in the school and nonprofits came into it was a total collaboration. But I looked at the idea of parents. I don't believe a parent would leave home, give their keys to a stranger, and leave the house with the children inside.
I don't
Right.
know if parent ever do that.
No parent would do that. First and foremost, if you did that, that would be a criminal effect.
Yeah.
You're going to find some time in a courtroom and potentially face charges because that may be, and those children were harmed by a stranger. You didn't know that. Now I'm going somewhere with this. So, as a parent, I believe, tell me what you're thinking about this. That teacher, that counselor should not be a stranger to that parent. I mean, how do you allow somebody to have your children all day and you don't know their name, you don't have their email address, you don't communicate to them because they're going to have them all day, every day. So if Johnny's doing something well and that teacher wants to communicate, to send an email, and I know parents are working. I mean, I get that. 2 and 3 jobs, I get that. But to be able to communicate in this day and time through most teachers will even give their cell number. If a parent needs to call the teacher or email address to communicate, don't let that teacher be a stranger because this is a partnership. If the child is doing something, inappropriate, then the parent needs to know. But also, I started out with good things. If they're caught doing things well, they're doing this, they're improving, a parent needs to know that. So I think I use that stranger analogy because oftentimes some parents don't know the teachers' names or don't know certain things. What are your thoughts along those lines?
Now, Mr. McDonald, you are spot on. When you think of any relationship, the lifeblood and the vitality of any relationship it all boils down to communication. Even when you think about your personal relationships with your spouse or someone close to you, if you have strong communication, then most times that relationship is a healthy relationship. And that's no different than with your children's teacher. If you take the initiative, and I do mean like that you take the initiative as a parent and initiate strong lines of communication, you make sure that the teachers have access to you and that you have access to the teachers, your children, your student will reap the benefit of that strong communication. And you can't assume that it's the teacher's going to take that responsibility on because that teacher may have 26 students, and if they're a middle or high school student, they may have over 100 students that they're supporting and serving each day. So as a parent, you take the responsibility of initiating communication, having regular communication around your students' progress, and then also being supportive of that educator, knowing that being a teacher in 2024 is a very difficult job. And so having parents that are inquisitive but supportive, monitoring but supportive, will make sure that the student will benefit from that communication. One thing to bring up, I think, is important. Historically, historically, and generally speaking, minority communities and possibly marginalized communities also just have trusted school systems and trusted teachers to do what's right and do what's best for their students. So I'm going to make sure that my child gets to school, but I trust that you are going to make sure they learn what they need to learn and that they are prepared to be able to be a good citizen and graduate. Now, with that trust, sometimes that has looked like I'm not going to call, I'm not going to communicate because I trust that you all have it. And I want to challenge our community with really revisiting what that looks like and say, I might trust you all, but I'm also going to walk alongside of you all to make sure, one, that you all are getting to know me, you're getting to know my child, and that I'm supporting this educational process. Because ultimately, it's not 100% on the backs of the teachers and the administrators. We share the responsibilities of making sure that our students are successful in this process.
Absolutely, because I knew that things I used to do to try to reach out to parents and the phone number change and those types of things. So if the phone number changes, if there's something, that communication is so important because there are times that children tend to. I'll use myself as an example. If I could get away with something as a child, I would. And I believe I'm not the only one. I believe the listeners, if I could, but I think back to my father who was Jamaican, and I remember his whole philosophy, come to school the first day as a little boy, he was a construction worker, he'd come to the classroom and tell the teacher, or tell me in front of her, or he would say, Mom, this is my boy. He would tell, he'd point to her, this during the daytime, this your mother. He would say, this your mother. If she say jump, how high and when to come down is all you need to ask. And she said, make him learn, and he said, we understand, good. He's gone to work. But I knew that teacher had that buy-in from my father and my mother, that all she had to say to me was, Mr. McDonald, do I need to call your dad? And the end of the story, that was it. If I did anything. So this buy-in and teamwork and partnership with the end result of a child being socially, emotionally, and educationally supported so they can grow is so huge. So I want to ask you this. What do you think is the most important thing for parents to know about the school curriculums and the activities that go into the school?
Yeah, I definitely think curriculum-wise, parents need to know the content that's being covered, and especially as we enter in this election year and really hyper politicized environment. But our parents should know, like, what are the expectations of the curriculum with regards to what our students are supposed to learn. What is this curriculum teaching my student? When are they supposed to learn it during the course of the year? And what are some supplemental resources and supports that I can provide at home or from the community that will allow my student to be successful within the curriculum if they're not experiencing mastery at school. And so again, the content, often our students in the Black community or Hispanic community or minority community, we don't see ourselves represented adequately in the curricula. And so also knowing that there's an adequate level of representation in the curricula so the students can see themselves in the curriculum. And then also, in this day and age, the curriculum should allow students to collaborate with each other. So that age of sitting and getting in rows, there should be embedded opportunities for students to learn how to communicate with their peers, to problem solve, to think critically, to solve those problems. And if you can find curriculum that embed those characteristics and traits, those are the curriculum, in my opinion, our curricula, in my opinion, that will help our students be prepared to take advantage of the opportunities in this global economy and not be taken advantage of in the global economy.
Absolutely, that is so real because there's been a lot of heatedness, as you mentioned, politically about what's taught and all those types of things in school. But it is so important. I agree totally that young people see themselves in the curriculum, how they grow, how they believe in themselves, that I can do those types of things as well. Also, what are your thoughts on live? I know this is a touchy subject sometimes, but the attending PTA meetings or being a part of volunteering in the school. What are some of your thoughts you think going into this new school year that you would highly recommend for parents?
Yeah, I think that, and this might not be a popular opinion, but I think what we value and what we prioritize is what we spend our times doing. And, as a high school principal, I've seen parents that, say, I have to work, I don't have the time, to join your PTO or to volunteer at your school, but they're at every football game. They're at every practice, standing on the side of the fence, yelling at the coach, and yelling at their kids. So somehow those same parents find the time, because that's what they value. And I'm not here to challenge anyone's values, and I think sports are critically important. But I also know that when you value the academic side of it, your children benefit from it. The teachers see the parents who are involved in PTSO, and so they get a chance to build relationships with parents because they're there. And so I'll challenge parents to really take an inventory of their time, and to say, do I really not have time? Or is it just something that I don't feel comfortable doing? And that's valid too, because parents might not feel adequate or like they have anything to contribute in that PTO or PTA setting. And schools can do a better job to make all parents feel welcome. Imagine if you're an English language learner, and you're asked to be a part of the PTO or the PTA, and you're just still trying to master the language. That could be very intimidating. And so, what can we, as school officials, do to make it a more welcoming and just a open environment for parents to participate? And let's be real. People have to work, and transportation is an issue. So, I think there should be a hybrid approach of in-person and virtual meetings, and in-person and virtual opportunities for parents to volunteer. I think once we just look at it we shift the paradigm from what the parental involvement was maybe when we were students to what it could be now, with all of the technology we have access to. We can open up more opportunities for parents to be involved.
Absolutely. And that is part about now having Zooms with parents. If you can't make it, 3 or 4 teachers get together and on a cell phone. Because you're right. I do know parents who had to catch 2 buses to get to school and do those kinds of things. And sometimes they themselves didn't do well academically, or they had issues in school themselves. And now they're 35, 40 years old. And now they have children. And so, again, but the whole idea, because I know you've heard it as well too. I've had parents, students who weren't on their best behavior, whatever, and they want to contact the parents, and they say, "Call my mama. I don't care. Call my mama. They ain't gonna do nothing." And so what? And which tells me, or my mama don't like you anyway, which lets me know that the parent has been talking negatively about the teacher, and the child takes the attitude of, "Oh, my mama don't like you, so I'm not gonna like you, so I'm not gonna do what you have to do." So I would. What are your thoughts along having parents to be careful what's said about the teachers itself, because children are listening?
But having the privilege of raising 2 boys myself, I know that kids hear everything that you say, whether you think they're listening or not. And often they repeat what they hear at the most inappropriate times.
Yes.
And so I understand that dynamic. And so I think parents need to really understand that, again, that the teachers are not against their students. And like I mentioned earlier, to see them as partners. And if there is a point of contention or a point of conflict, to not have that conversation necessarily with the student or around the student, but as adults, communicate to the teacher and say, "Hey, I don't like the way that my child is being treated in the class. I don't think this grade was fair. Can I have a conference with you? And again, can we talk about it as adults? Because my child is going to be in your classroom for the rest of this year, and they are going to be successful. And the only way they're going to be successful is if we as adults, we work together. And my child sees that I'm on the same team as you, and you're on the same team as me, and we're all on team student to see that student win." And I think if parents and teachers can sometimes get out of their emotions and center their efforts to really making sure that student is successful, and that the class that student is in, that those students are successful too, that they can work together. And I think again, as we're coming out of COVID and we're kind of getting back to the norm, if there is such a thing, I think that educators across the country and schools across the country can build opportunities to provide professional development and training to parents and to families around like that communication piece. We have a lot of parents, but they're sending school-aged kids to school, and it's their first time doing this. They've never done it before. So, as you mentioned earlier, they're going off of their experience. And if they had a negative experience when they were in school, they're bringing that baggage into their parenting and into their support of their children. So, I mean, I would love for more schools to open up opportunities in person or virtually where they can provide skills for parents and families to improve and increase communication with their children's teachers.
Absolutely. This has been phenomenal. Listen, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Guys, we'll be right back continuing this great topic. Did you know your gut health impacts everything from digestion to mood? Introducing Love Biome, a premium all-natural supplement with 96 organic fruits and vegetables from all around the world designed to support a thriving gut environment. With carefully targeted strands of good bacteria, probiotics, prebiotics, and postbiotics, Love Biome helps you to maintain optimal digestive health, boost immunity, and feel your best every day. Go to MauriceMcDonald.net. Don't let an unbalanced gut hold you back. Feel the difference with Love Biome, your key to a healthier, happier you. Available now at MauriceMcDonald.net. That's MauriceMcDonald.net. Unlock the secrets to a healthier you with a balanced gut microbiome. Welcome back. Listen, we're here on the It's About You radio show on WDRB, the media, the voice of the community. And we're here today was talking about a great topic with Principal Erik Turner, and we've been sharing about coming back to school, this school year. And I wanted to pause for a moment. If you're a parent listening to this, this has not been beat up on Parent Day. We're by no means saying that you're not a good parent. We're not saying, because if you're not doing some of the things that we're talking about, we're just saying we want to expose you and talk about how important it is, because we know most parents are doing the very best they can with what they have, and that you are a great parent. So I want to stress that, because if you may have heard that, well, I'm not doing this, I don't go to PTA, I'm working 2 or 3 jobs. I get it. But now with things done virtually, we're saying maybe in your school there's some other alternatives. And if you're an administrator or you're a faculty or you're a teacher hearing this, think about some of the things that you can do to assist parents who you know are putting in the work, doing what they got to do, the great work. So with that said, I felt led to say that, because a couple of things that might have been said that may have been taken out of context, or think that we're judging people, but we're absolutely not. But let's talk about this role. What do you think, Mr. Turner, about the specific resources or tools that you recommend help parents along the idea of homework?
Yeah. So thank you for asking that question. I think one of the important things to start that with is just the parents creating a habit of asking students about homework. And it sounds like a no-brainer, but when students know that there's some accountability around having to talk to their parents about the homework, I think that's a starting place, and it's just a starting place. Because if you just ask, do you have any homework tonight? Your student, if they were like my 2 boys, they're going to say, no, I don't have any. And then a couple weeks later, you're going to hear from teachers that, that they haven't been doing their homework. So I share that starter just to say, if the students know that they're going to have to account for homework in your home, it sends that message that that's a priority. I think secondly, setting time aside to look at their homework and to look for completion, and if you're able or capable to see if it's correct, to be able to do that, especially with our younger kids. And again, this could be intimidating for parents that don't feel like they know the content But starting with like looking at the homework, saying, okay, what did you have, and what did you do, and like really having that conversation. Most school districts across the country have learning management platforms like Power School, where parents can or teachers have Canvas web pages where they can go in and they can see the assignments that were given to students, and you can download those apps onto your phone. And from your phone, you can look and see the homework assignments that were given. And it only takes like 2 or 3 times for a parent to say, "Hey, Eric, I saw that Mr. McDonald assigned this or that for homework from looking at that platform," and the kids know that you're checking, that you're monitoring, and that you're holding them accountable to the work. And it also just again it just sets the tone in your house. So that's that side of it. And I think the other thing, Mr. McDonald, is like creating the conditions for success. Like it's we think that we can multitask and really produce high quality work, right? We can listen to music, we can watch TV, and we can do pre-calculus work at the same time. Now, some people may be able to do those things, but I wasn't that type of student that could do that. And so as a parent, you can create the expectations and the conditions of like when you have homework, you have this hour after school, you're going to get some snack, you're going to use the bathroom, and you're going to have this quiet time to work on the work. And even if you're not at home, you're at work as a parent during that time, in your home, you set the expectation of until that homework is complete, there's no TV, there's no video game, there's no whatever. And that just helps that student establish those positive and those healthy study skills that will allow them to be successful in their work. And I think last but not least is just, again, going back to that communication with the teacher. I think it's always a great habit for parents to reach out to the teachers at least monthly to just, and you don't have to schedule a formal conference, but just say, hey, how's Eric doing? Is he turning in his homework? Because he's coming home day after day and saying he does not have homework. So I just want to make sure that, you know, like what he's doing what he's supposed to do, and that I'm able to support him at home. Being able to do that as a parent, it keeps you in the know. It improves the relationship with the teacher, and that student is watching the parents talk to the teachers, and they know that they have to be accountable because that relationship is strong.
That is so true. I'm sitting here thinking about certain students that come to mind right now in my face. I remember when parents found out that the child wasn't doing their homework, and then when mom found out about the Power Schools, that platform you're talking about, and how she could get it even on her cell phone. And I sat down with her and showed her how to do it, and then how she could do it. She said, "Oh yeah, oh now I can look and see what he's doing." And the look on the child's face was like, "Man, Mr. Mack, why you do that?" Because he wanted to get on. He was a ninth grader. But you're right. That second grade, that third grader, they need to know the expectations. And if a parent talks to a teacher and finds out, how often do you give homework? And if I got the email, hey, listen, or like you said, a monthly check-in with the teacher through email. Yeah. And hey, sometimes, and I've known teachers who do those types of things who set up a Zoom. Where all three teachers were in one room and they were there talking to that parent at work while she was on her break to communicate. That's huge. And I believe there's not a school in the country where a teacher would not do that if they need to talk to a teacher. If you got the phone number, a text message, hey, did Johnny have homework? This type of stuff. But if the teacher says, I give homework, 3 times a week, 3 days a week, or every night he's going to have, especially math, like you mentioned that, about that calculus or whatever you're doing. That's important. That, like you said, that communication is so, so important. And then also the idea of, I know not telling people how to do in their home, but I often know with the technology today, parents who are not home when the children get home, they got all kind of cameras you can have in the house monitoring if he's doing his homework right from the cell phone. You can be at work and take a glance. Oh, he's home now. He just got home. He has to text me, okay, got your homework done. You can see what's going on in the house if you're not there, which is not a bad idea in today's time, because children will do things that when mama's not around, because that's never changed. Dad's not around. I'm gonna let my friend come in, or I'm gonna sneak out the house, but they're not home. So that way, there's a way to monitor, to keep an eye on what's going on. Because as you said before, everybody's children. I know a lot of times parents will come and say to me, "Not my child. He wouldn't do that." Well, I wasn't a perfect angel, but I wasn't a bad student either. But I didn't get in trouble. But not that didn't mean I didn't try. I just didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't get caught. But today's society is the same. But another topic that I think is so near and dear, and things that I saw happening a lot, is the social emotional piece with our children, because of the pressures to get A's all the time, the pressure to do well. Can you speak to some of that social emotional piece for students?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit it right on the head that there's so much pressure to perform now in schools, and there's pressure to perform outside of schools, of course, but in schools, so much is tied to the students. So much of their identity is tied to their academic performance. And so sometimes students will feel like if they don't do well academically, or if they're not meeting the expectations of their family or their parents, that they're not a good person. And so it's tied in, their identity is tied to their performance, and it adds to the level of stress and their overall well-being when they're not able to perform. We also see that when students don't have strong time management skills, and they wait to the last minute to try to write a paper, or they wait till the night before test to try to study, their stress levels skyrocket. And all of us, not just students, how we manage stress is critical to our overall health and our well-being. And so, with that being said, I think schools and families and community-based organizations, one can help teach time management skills and organizational skills to students, and that will be transferable for the rest of their lives. They'll be able to take those skills that they learn in the classroom and apply them at work. They'll be able to apply those skills in their homes. And I think that would also greatly decrease the level of stress and anxiety that they have in a variety of areas of their life. And I think also improving communication skills. How many of us grew up and when we were sad or we were upset, and especially as young men, we were just told to be quiet and just keep it in. Young men don't talk. And so not having a healthy outlet to be able to communicate and to talk to either peers or adults about how we're feeling only compounds the level of stress, and it will push us towards negative outlets. And so lastly, being able to like understand the negative impact of social media. I grew up in the 80s and 90s when I was, and we didn't have any of those things, but the impact of social media on overall well-being, I don't think that we even know. Let me say that a different way. We're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of the impact that is having on our students. Even like the students' value of, like, they post something and then they don't get a certain amount of likes, then they feel like they're not a part of the clique or the group, or they're not a part of certain social circles. And so we as a society need to continue to do research on social media and how it's impacting the overall social development of our students, even just their ability to communicate, because a lot of that communication is not face-to-face communication. It doesn't take the interpersonal interactions where I have to see how my communication and my interactions are either hurting or harming other people. I can just send something and not have to like really own the impact of the communication that I send. So I think the combination of the time management, organizational management, the communication and developing healthy peer networks, and then social media management and parents, I see elementary school kids with TikTok pages and Instagram pages, and like that is something that's almost like letting your 6 or 7 year old walking in Central Park in New York by themselves at night. And there's so many elements, positive and negative elements on social media. And so parents, you can't like not be monitoring and be aware of what your children are doing on social media. They have to know that you have their password, you have their accounts, and that you're on there, you're one of their friends also, so that you can see what they're posting, who they're posting to, and what messages that they're receiving on social media and on the internet.
That is so true because I know as a former counselor, I know for a fact I would go to the classrooms. Parents, hear this well. I truly know, and this is from experience, that cell phone sometimes in social media is one reason your child is not being successful in school. I've seen teachers, I look through the door, I go to look for a student, and I go look through the door, the teacher's teaching, his head is down and looking has a hoodie on and looking down on the cell phone and sliding the phone while the teacher is teaching. While class is going on, they are on the cell phone. And then I say, and so therefore, now if the teacher's asking them to use a cell phone, I've been in some places where teachers let them use a calculator on their phone in math. I've seen that, and I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about they own TikTok and Netflix. I mean, they're doing Twitter and everything else while the teacher's teaching. Also, when you mentioned before, you had mentioned about quiet time, or where you putting the social media down, the electronics down.
Yeah.
I know for a fact as well there were students who were at 1 o'clock in the morning. Mom and dad, you're home, you're asleep in bed, and they are on social media. And then at 9 o'clock in the morning, they are fast asleep first period because they're tired. They have been, and they're going. That goes back to what we're talking about again, putting strategies together so they can be successful. Because I know for a fact if I step at 1 o'clock in the morning, at 9 o'clock I'm tired, I'm sleepy. Especially at noon, I'm really exhausted now because my body hadn't had time to get sleep. And of course, our children are still developing; their brains are still developing. So, what are your thoughts about? I know we can't tell parents what to do, but at nighttime, in my opinion, at midnight or 10 o'clock at night, they don't need a cell phone because now it's time to sleep. And I know that's a real bold statement, but what are your thoughts on about the management of the electronics?
Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. McDonald. And I think, again, it goes back to our habits are going to guide our lives. Right? Like our habits and routines that we create for ourselves are either going to work for us or they're going to work against us. And so the habits of being able to have healthy limits and parameters on when I have access, when I'm using that technology, will help students know when to turn it off, like and to rest. And I know that you have an emphasis also on healthy living, and so the importance of rest and the importance of like sleep and how it's a vital part of overall well-being is critical for students to learn young, not when they're older trying to overcome a sickness. And so when you think about like time, a set time to turn off the TV, get off of social media, all those different things is critically important. It's my dad used to tell me nothing good happens after 12 o'clock. And so in his context, it was like, Eric, you don't need to be out in the streets after 12 o'clock because nothing good happens after 12 o'clock out there. Well, I would argue that that's the same thing for social media. Ain't nothing positive, nothing good going on after 11 or 12 o'clock that you need to be sending where you could be resting and sleeping. And again, you mentioned like that parents, at that time, I know I'm asleep most nights. And so when you talk about who's going to monitor that, who's going to enforce that, like parents can work alongside of their children to make sure that just the expectations in the house are followed. And it's not because I said so, because that was the answer that I would get.
Yeah, me too.
We have to communicate why it's for the best for the student, why it's not designed to hurt or just to be and a very authoritarian type of parent, it's because I love you, I care about you, and I know that this is for the best, for your best interest, even if you don't see it right now as a 12, 13, or 14-year-old.
That is so true, because I know social media is so big. And also on the same topic, I would say for parents also is to develop a relationship with the school resource officer, because most schools in America, there is a school resource officer for obvious reasons. We've had tragedies in America. Most sheriff's departments and law enforcement officers have, realized what they need to do. And they're not there to just make arrests, okay? They're not there. Because a lot of time, I know as a school resource officer myself, I had a relationship with teachers, the staff, parents. If I saw the parents doing certain things, I would have that. So that way, that's a resource. Because you have kids vaping in school and all other kind of things that, that's going on in school. And mom is working, has no idea. Dad is working. They think they're doing, they have no idea what's going on with their child. And oftentimes, children would leave notes or they would say things because of the stress of what's going on in their life. A young girl's dating. She's in high school. She's not supposed to be dating because mom has told her she can't date, and he's abusive. And guess what? Who do they talk to? That's the role of the counselor. They get a chance to talk to them. And that leads to another whole part of that social emotional. They will leave a note on the desk. I wish I were alive. I wish I were dead. And then that leads to coming to the counselor to talk and maybe referral for some type of counseling. So what are some of your thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, the first part around the school resource officer piece, I think that, there's historically in our country, there's always been a rift or gap between law enforcement and the black community. If we go all the way back to slavery times, and afterwards, that it's just been a gap there. And I think that the school resource officer is a huge opportunity for us to be able to begin to build relationships with law enforcement, in particular in the Black and Hispanic community. In most schools that I'm familiar with, resource officers start in schools at middle school and not in elementary school. And if the funding was available to have resource officers in middle school, then students as early as pre-K or kindergarten can begin to see police officers and not fear them, and to not see them as someone who's going to take their parent away or harm them or hurt them, but as someone who's a friend, someone who cares about them, someone who wants them to be safe. And so again, changing that dynamic between the community and law enforcement will allow students to be more trustworthy of law enforcement. And I think in the schools is a wonderful opportunity for that to be able to happen. And I think also, when you talk about just the overall suicidal ideation and the intent to harm yourself that some of our students are battling with, having support such as counselors, social workers, school psychologists, all within schools, those resources are there. And parents need to be aware of those resources, and teachers and administrators need to make sure that all the students in that building know where to go if they can't handle a situation that they're dealing with. And again, I think one of the fallacies and really detrimental thoughts that students have is that I'm by myself. I have to do this I have to handle it on my own. And we have to provide wraparound services around every child, so every child knows if I get to a point or place where I feel like I'm out of control and heaven forbid, I feel like I don't want to be here anymore, I know who I can talk to. I know where I could go. I know where that resource is to help me with what I'm dealing with right now.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, I know as a former school resource officer, like I said, I've had three to me amazing careers helping people. It was that process of being a DARE officer back in the day, teaching drug education. When I knew I had passion for students. When I had a principal say to me, if you had a master's in counseling, I'd hire you today. She was instrumental in me going back to get my master's degree. Little did she know what she said. And so as that officer, I got engaged with everybody in the community, and being able to connect with parents and connect with faculty. And then when I retired, led me to go into to what I was doing anyway, and then becoming a counselor because I saw the counselors there, and I just know that when you have children that need help socially, emotionally, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they are going to harm themselves, but the fact that they're thinking about it,
Yeah.
and they need a resource, an outlet. And oftentimes I had parents that say, "Well, ain't nothing wrong with him. He just need a beating, or if you go, I got time coming up here, pick you up, talking about you gonna kill yourself, and if you're gonna do it, just do it." I've heard parents that say those things, and I want to stress, please, 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 that is not what you say, because if the children, and by the way, children are different today than when you grew up.
Yeah.
It's a different, and I know that some things still apply. Old school still good. I get it. But today, children face, for example, bullying. Back in the day, yeah, there were bullies, but now social media bullying, the whole world can see it. So there's a little difference of how they're faced. But again, connected with the school counselors, and sometimes they need outside resource counseling because children have to deal with friends being killed in car accidents, children in the neighborhood getting shot, and they got their friend. What does a 10-year-old do with that emotion? His best friend was killed on a basketball court in the neighborhood, and he was in the same class as him in school. Does that affect him in school? Absolutely. So it is important to let them get some type of counseling if they need it, and because counseling is important. Because the moment you think children don't need it, nothing wrong with them, they're smoking weed, they're vaping, they're drinking, or a combination of all of them. And now you find a situation where they're doing some things and there's an addiction and their whole behavior changes now. So I've seen those things happen, and even smaller kids in middle school. There have been middle schools who bring drugs to school. Seventh
Elementary
grade.
school kids now.
Huh?
Elementary school kids.
Yeah, elementary school. You're exactly right. So things are and you may say, "Well, I don't have drugs in my house," but guess what? But his friend does. Down the block has it. You're at work, your second, third job. You don't know what's going on sometimes. So therefore, plug into all the resources because we are all a team. The faculty, the counselor, the administration, the school resource officer, the social worker, the school psychologist. We have people that come into school and volunteer who've all been vetted. They're volunteering, helping in the school. That's the whole team, guys. Hey, the coach, especially the coach. A lot of things that's being told there. So this whole village, when they say it takes a whole village, to raise a child, well, it is so true. That village is very, very important. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Did you know all disease begins in the gut? That's right. Your gut is the gateway to your better health. But modern diets and stress can lead you to be out of balance. Introducing Love Biome, your all-natural solution for a healthier you. Love Biome is scientifically formulated to nourish, restore your gut microbiome with prebiotics, postbiotics, and probiotics, all made naturally clean ingredients, no filters, no chemicals, just pure wellness. Boost your immune system, strengthen your life daily with Love Biome. Simply go to MauriceMcDonald.net. That's MauriceMcDonald.net and learn all about your gut microbiome. That's MauriceMcDonald.net and learn about the all natural ingredients from all over the world to help you have a better gut microbiome. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Listen, this time has gone by so fast, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't cover a topic that I think is so important. I know we talk about knowing who your friends are. Who are your child's friends? And you think back in the day, who your friends were. Your parents may have known who they were. Mr. Turner, what do you think the advice you would have for parents when it comes to friends?
Yeah, I think, Mr. McDonald, that it's important for parents to be very inquisitive and thoughtful about like their students' friends, their children's friends. And again, You're not judging other kids and all of that, but like you need to know who your children's friends are, what they like to get into, and if they're a good student, if they're a struggling student, and also you need to know their parents. Like it was told to me by my father, you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And my father used to also tell me, he would say, if you're the smartest one in your clique or your group, then you need another group. Surrounding yourself with people who are going to help you be better, and also who are going to have similar goals and values that you and your family do. And that's important. And I know that, we all want our students, our children to be healthy and to have a good social network. But if your child hangs around kids that are not doing the right thing, they're going to do the wrong thing too. I don't care if your child goes to Sunday school every week and goes to church and is just the greatest child. It's so difficult for them not to participate in some of the other deviant behaviors if all of their buddies and their friends are doing the same thing. So as a parent, you have the right to tell your students or your child, like, hey, I know that this is your buddy, but hey, I don't think you need to hang around such and such because they're in this, and then tell your story. Because I'm sure we as parents can help our students understand that we experience some of those. We have some of those experiences too. And so, Mr. McDonald, I would just say for parents to, and especially when they get in middle school and high school, and you've seen it, that's when they kind of ease off a little bit and say, okay, they're getting bigger, they're getting older. I'm gonna back up a little bit and not be as close monitoring them. And when they become preteens and teenagers, that's actually when they need you the most. They need you monitoring. They need you being around. It might look a little different than when they were 7 or 8, but they need you to not back off during those critical teenage years.
And that goes back to social media, because kids are so smart and they can hide stuff on their phones, and you need all their passwords. You need everything that they got, because there's so many times where people sneak out in the middle of the night because someone they met, their friend told them they got this party, they're going to be drinking, and, I'm 14 years old or I'm 13 years old, and I'm I got the makeup on, the girls and boys, I got this, and I want to sneak out, or I'm going to be over so-and-so's house, my friend, and you don't know where they live. Now, the police officer in me knows that that's a recipe for disaster, because if something happens and you don't know where they are, everybody's, it doesn't look good for you as a parent. But if you know that child's parent, they live over there. Well, that uncle of that parent could be an alcoholic, passing alcohol out at the party. You don't know who's going to be there. Mom, that's my friend. Listen, they're not going to like it, because our role is not to be their friend. Our role, because children don't need 40-year-old friends. They don't need 45-year-old friends, and even that 9-year-old don't need a 30-year-old friend. They need a parent. And all this plays a major role going right back into schools, because a lot of stuff starts at school. That's where the party was planned at. Going to be at so-and-so's house after school, and we're going to go over there, and my uncle got alcohol, my brother, and knowing who they are and what they've been doing. And by the way, nothing wrong with showing up at school occasionally unannounced too.
Right.
That part. Because you'd be surprised if you showed up at school unannounced one day and catch them doing something good. Mama, what you doing? Daddy, what you doing here? Because now they wondering, when they going to start that popping up? I better stay in line, because they may pop up in line. Hey, listen, this time has gone by so fast. And one of the things I would say in closing is make sure nutritionally as well, too. They get a good breakfast, sleep at night, because that affects everything that they do, that proper diet that they can get to help them in school to think clearly and those types of things as well. Listen, this has been awesome, Mr. Turner. Thank you so much for being here today, taking time out of your busy day to help share some information with parents all around the country, and I thank you so much for that.
Mr. McDonald, thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you. Listen, guys, this has been the It's About You radio show on WDRB, the media, the voice of the community. We'll see you next Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Go out and make it a great day and an outstanding week because you positively deserve it.